at me made what I heard play in my ears like a melody. But I've got voices in my head telling me it's too good to be true. When I'm lying in my bed, I close my eyes and I see you. 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 I close my eyes and I see
Yo, what's going on, guys? So, I'm gonna give you my thoughts. On the background is some gameplay. I'm using the new Ruin and the new Doctor without add-ons. So I'll just do some like commentary while I'll give my thoughts on what I think about the new Doctor and the new Ruin. Now as you can see, I'm playing on the game, so it's already like a pretty hard like map to find totems. So that's kind of good for my Ruin. Right here, I really like this change that they you don't have to like transition between the shock therapy mode and stuff like that. It allows for some very fluent, like things just flow better, you know. It feels better to stop the loops like I just did there. Right there, I was gonna shock her again, but she just left the loop, so either way she was gonna get hit. So that's like, you know, a good demonstration of the power of the new shock, where you don't have to like, everything just flows. You don't have to like stop to change treatment modes and stuff like that. That helps a lot in the chases. Now, here's a good example of where I think is a buff from the old Ruin. Let me just comment on this shock right here. You see, everyone now it's on. I was able to hit everyone with that static blast. With the old like Doctor, where you had to hold your hands, this would never be possible. They would all like spread out before I was able to you know, get them to tear up. So in that instance, that's also like why I think it's a huge buff for him, the static blast, because it's just something you can do on command. You know, you don't have to I don't know, like if you don't have to like hold them and not do nothing, just stay there for like a very long time before they actually scream. Because in case you didn't know, like before the old Doctor, when he was holding his hand up, the closer you were to him, the faster you would get the tear up, and the further away you were from him, the slower you would get the tear up. I think Myers stalking works the same way. So essentially, if he was very far away from you, you would have to hold your hand like for so long. It's kind of pointless because you're not doing anything, you know. But with this static blast, you just like on command, you can know where they just get the tear up right away. Everyone that's inside his terror radius, so that's a huge buff, I think. Yeah, and yeah, it takes a minute, but I mean, you don't really need to use it that much more often than a minute. So I still think it's fine, the 1 minute. Because like as soon as you know where they are, you pretty much start a chase right away. You know where they are, so you can start a chase right away. And by the time you end that chase, it's pretty much a minute gone. You know, you hook them or whatever, so it's already back and you're able to be used. So I think a minute is fine. I'm not sure if there's add-ons that can reduce the time. Maybe I think not. I don't think you can reduce the time, just increase how much madness they get from it. But either way, I think 1 minute is fine for the static blast. You see, like right now, my static blast is already ready again, and this would be like the exact moment that I would need it to find where they are or what they're doing. Okay, now let's go back to the Ruin. So if you notice, like I was able to down a Colette very early at the start of the game, and because I have corrupt intervention, I think it's like the go-to perk for avoiding those very first 3 gens to pop. Not avoiding, but you know, buying some time at least, because they still have to waste time looking for other gens and stuff like that, especially on a map like this, which is not that easy to find. And that gives you time to kind of setup. You know, you can find the first guy, and if you're a good killer, you know, you would down them very early, like I did with the Colette there. So, like, I really think it's the new ruin just benefits good killers like even more, and it's kind of bad for the killers that were bad, you know, but it's like a buff for the killers that are good and actually know how to play in a bright pressure. Like you see me pretty much doing this entire video. But going back to the Claudette, so as soon as she got hooked, it pretty much the game started right there. So she's hooked, now someone has to go save her. And you noticed I was also able to, there was two guys working on co-op on that gen. When I climbed the stairs, and I was able to get them up the gen before they were actually able to finish it. And that's really just because of corrupt intervention, because they had to like move around the map and find another gen to work on while I was chasing that Claudette. So that's why I think like corrupt intervention is really good. It gives you that setup time, and if you're a good killer and you can down chases very quickly, you know, it's like everything just complements itself. And like because it's a new ruin, you know, it's gonna passively regress the gens. So by forcing those two out of that gen, you know, that gen is like immediately regressing. Whereas the old ruin, that would not happen. Like the gen would still be like, I don't know, like 80% or something. And if they for some reason come back to it, it would still be 80%. They can pretty much just tap it and finish it. But with this new ruin, no, that if I somehow pressure them off that gen, it's just like gonna be regressing right away, and not that slow of a speed too. So by the time they come back, if they come back to the gen, you know, before it gets to 0, you know, it's just that much better than the old one. The old one, it would still be 80%. They have to get the skill checks for it to do anything, and even then, the skill checks are pretty like inconsistent. So in that sense, I think it's a huge buff. And it brings me to my point that where I said like the new ruins, it just makes even better, even easier for the good killers. Because like I see, just the pressure, I'm just creating like so much pressure. They don't have time to like do the gens. They just have to be constantly healing and saving each other. And because this new ruin is just constantly regressing the gens, it's just like completely overkill, you know. Like even if I did not have ruin right now, it's pretty much like very hard for them to come back, you know, to make a comeback from all this pressure. But because I have ruin, it's just like, you know, just that much more overkill. And now not only they cannot come back from this, but the gens are like still regressing. So it's like it's just completely like overkill. It's like even if they're I don't know, they're super good and they somehow manage to revert all this pressure that I created, the gens would all have regressed to 0. Instead of if it was the old ruin and they somehow managed to revert all the pressure, the gens will still all be, you know, where they left off, so you can just tap them and finish them. So in that sense, I feel like it's a huge buff for the perk. Now of course, most of what I'm saying, it works this way very nice because it's combining with other perks, such as Corrupt Intervention and Whispers. You see I'm using Pop there. That's really just a safe way, like in case they destroy the totem early or whatever, I still have Pop to somehow help with the gens. That's pretty much it, but you could try even using, if you don't like want to use Whispers for example, you could even try using Surveillance, and it would be like a very good combo with Corrupt Innovation and Hex Ruin as well, the new one of course. So that's also like another huge buff I think on the perk. It now has a lot more synergy with other perks, so like you can combine to make an even stronger combination than the perks by themselves. Whereas the old ruin, there was no way to combine it with pretty much anything. It's just like they're, you know, it's like its own thing. But now you can combine it. This new ruin allows it to combine it with other things and just give that much of a good effect, a better effect overall. Especially combining with surveillance, it lets you know where they're working on the gens. It just makes that much easier to know where they are and create pressure. So like I said, if you're a good killer, a good player, you know how to end chases fast, and you know how to create pressure and apply pressure. So that's kind of a given. I'm giving that as I'm giving my thoughts having that as a premise. So in that sense, the perk is like a huge buff. Now, the only bad thing about this perk is that it's a Hex Totem, but then again, the old ruin was also a Hex Totem, so there's really no nerf there or buff, it's the same thing. The only bad thing about both this new ruin and the old one, was if it was destroyed right away. So, but even if this one, the new one, is destroyed right away, like you still get no effect out of it, just like you did with the old one. So there's no nerf there or buff. It's still the same thing in the sense that the worst thing that can happen is get destroyed right away. But in this sense, this new ruin is a buff because the old ruin, for example, if they like work on the gen up to 50% and they get their first hack skill check and they go look for the totem, that gen is still gonna be at 50. You know, if they come back, it's still at 50. But this new ruin not. If they go look for the totem, that gen is gonna be regressing. So it's a buff in that sense. And also, it still has the same effect. Like if they choose to look for the totem early game, they're still wasting time looking for the totem, which is the same effect as the old ruin had, where no one would do gens before they found the totem. So in that sense, it's not a nerf in any way. It's still the same effect. But if anything, now you have a buff on top of it, which is the gen constantly regressing while they're looking for the totem. And another thing, like I said, they have to make a choice, because if they don't do this and they decide to just stay on the gens and not go after the totem, which is like kind of a good thing for you, because it's a hex totem, so you don't really want them to be looking for it. You want it to be always working. Which again is kind of a buff, because now they have the option to kind of be dumb and not look for it, And just like I showed in this video, if they do that and you create that kind of pressure, it just gets like impossible for them to come back, and you just like completely obliterate them. And even if they do come back from all the pressure you built, like I said, because the totem's still up, the gen is gonna be all the gens is gonna be at 0. So you kind of even though you lost the pressure, you didn't lose the game in a way, because the gens are at 0. That's how they win the game. So in those senses, that's why I think it's like a huge buff on this perk. It's actually I feel like it's actually better than the other one, and I'm all for it. I didn't think it would be this good, but yeah. And like I said, even if they destroyed the totem, which is the worst case scenario, is if they destroyed the totem right away, you can still have perks like Pop Goes the Weasel to help you. And like I said, if you're a good killer and you know how to build pressure, like I mostly never really needed Ruin to 4K for the most part. So it's like if you have Up Goes the Weasel, you can already you know what you're doing with some strategy. You know how you can still hold the gens pretty well, even though Ruin might be destroyed. So I mean, pretty much in all the senses, it's a buff. In my opinion, it's a huge buff for the perk. It's no different from the other ruin, but it just like rewards you for actually like being good and creating pressure, instead of relying on like inconsistent skill checks, and also relying that they won't just blast through the skill checks and do the gens anyway, or that I don't know they don't get any skill checks and the perk doesn't activate, doesn't have any usefulness out of it. So like I think it's just a huge buff overall for the perk, the rune. And as far as the doctor, I already there's not much to cover, but like I said, the shock is really good, super good. Everything just flows better. You can stop the chases. The loop's much better, also with the extra range on the shock, so all that is good. And the static blast, like I said, is also I think it's a huge buff. Especially if you have whispers on, you can just like on command know where they are. You don't have to like wait until they scream, because they can still be moving around while you're holding your hand, waiting for them to scream. So then they leave your terror radius. They don't scream anymore. It's like there's too many variables, and you're wasting time to make that happen. Whereas this is like on command, it just everything happens, and you know where they are when you need to know where they are. So yeah, I think everything is good. Everything is a buff, and I like the change actually. I actually like the change. So yeah, that's my thought, guys. Thanks for listening out.